Hey guys, so I couldn't resist. I'm painting the Lord of Contagion first. Um, I've had a few test models, like I said, and this is the one that I liked the most. Let's try and keep that focused. Um, yeah, so it's basically working from a Screaming Skull layer, chucking a Seraphim Sapia wash, a Recess wash. I'm just going to go way out of focus. Yeah, it is. Okay. Oh, there we go. Um, a Seraphim Sapia wash. Obviously, I've not finished this model. This is just to throw colours on and see, and throw them on very, very roughly to see. Once the Seraphim Sapia is dry, I used a sponge to stipple in some Rhinox hide, and then I stippled on some lead belcher on top of that, or the lighter one. I forget its name. Ironbreaker. Um, yeah. Then, what did I do next? I think I did a dirty wash of Agrax at that point and just coated it a little bit more heavy into the dirty recesses of Agrax. Painted on some stripes from Rhinox hide. Did the gold. I've got Death Guard Forest, I think. Death World Forest. So I'm using that for the green on the shoulder pads. And then quickly blended some Elysium green, which is a nice layer paint. Looks really quite bright, so I just watered it down with Larmian Medium and tried to sort of blend it on a little bit. For the bronze, I'm using Warplock Bronze as a base, and then I'm going for Sycorax, I think it's how you pronounce it, Sycorax Bronze as a highlight. And then I just got crazy with the weathering, so I bought all the technicals. So we got some Typhus Corrosion there, Rise of Rust, Nihilic Oxide. So used a bit of the oxide, where are we? There we go. Used a bit of the oxide on the brass. A bit heavy over there, a bit too heavy. Couldn't be bothered at that point. I kind of decided how I was going to use it. On the backs, threw some of the Typhus Corrosion, like really into the deep recesses. I'll probably water this down a lot more when I actually apply it. Then dry brushed the Rise of Rust over it, and then just a little bit of silver as a final highlight and sort of brush it upwards. Yeah, it looks fairly dirty, and it's kind of the effect I'm after anyway, and it's a test model. So if it can come out looking dirty, obviously it's really messy, and I can do it a little neater. Kind of want to get messy but looking neat, which is a bit of a paradox. So yeah, that's the test model. So started painting the Lord of Corrosion, and I've only got the first layer of Screaming Skull on at this moment, so I'm going to leave the sack. There's obviously a lot more detail on this model than there is on the test model. So the sack is, I think I'm going to go with Pallid Witch Flesh and then just use loads of different washes to sort of stain it greens and reds and purples and such, because that'll be a real nice focal point, I think. Same with the intestines, as try as I might, I thought I'd got a Screamer Pink, and I don't, so oh well. I'll need to get that for some maggots. So that's that bit. There's really not that much on this piece. You got the top of it there. I'm going to do the cloak green, and everything else is either bone, so there's a big bone bit jutting out there, or it's going to be bronze. For the weird sort of smoky flames, I'm going to use Ulthuan Grey and then just wash them green, and I think that'll give a really cool sort of effect. I've seen a lot of people do the ghosts from Age of Sigmar, that style, so that should look pretty sweet. And the weapon here, again, it's more of that flamey bits. Loads of cool cogs and bits to erode and weather on the axe, and loads of cool details, so that should look pretty cool with a wash on it. Okay, so it's had a second coat of Screaming Skull, and I've just put some Seraphim Sapia on it. Generally recess wash and then gunked it on in some places. I'm just going to have I think when it's a bit too thick on the plate of the armour, I'm just going to perhaps dry brush some Screaming Skull over it. I'm kind of liking it so far, to be honest. It's going to get covered in grime anyway, so on the major panels, I'm kind of happy with that. It's good enough. And then the big guy himself. See, a lot of that's going to be bronze anyway, so that's cool enough for me. I can work from that. It's already looking grimy enough down by the feet. Just sort of dragged it up a bit at the bottom. Sorry the lighting's not great, by the way. I'm painting by a light right now. Tiny little desk lamp. So yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna mess this up because I didn't try this on my test model. I'm thinking I'm gonna do a highlight of pallid witch flesh, just a little edge highlight. If that goes totally wrong, then I'll just go over it again with Screaming Skull and maybe a bit of white instead. We'll see. Okay, so with a little bit of highlight on, I've then moved on to using a bit of sponge. You literally just tear a bit off from a blister pack. And I've used it to dab first Rhinox hide. And again, I'm kind of new to the whole weathering thing, so let's see if I can get the focus on this. I've kind of dabbed it in places that you'd expect rust to, you know, and chips to gather, so at the edges of the armour, in creases and such. Just dabbed it on a little bit in certain places. Not gone too crazy. I'm can always add more later if I feel I need to. Bear in mind, a lot of this is going to be bronze, so I can come back and add later. Just tidy up the head there. I've got a big splodge of Rhinox hide which needs tidying. Nothing a bit of Screaming Skull can't cover. Again, I'm not too fussed about getting it on the other areas at the moment because there's still loads to do on this model, but this will be a substantial chunk of it, I guess. You got to get this bit right to make it look right. So you can see I've made the edges of the kneecaps look a bit more battered there. Up the backs of the leg. I realise I've just missed a big chunk on the left leg, so that's going to get done. That is going to be hidden by the cape, but still, completeness and all. And then I realised I started painting a layer of cape. Oops. Started painting a layer of cape, and then I realised I should probably take this video first. So again, that's going to be around where the head is, so that should look pretty knackered. And then on the back, the top, I've kept that somewhat clean, so I'm going to Agrax that and maybe null oil it, really darken it down. I've got some Forge World smoke powders and stuff to make that bit look really grungy. Yeah, so as is already can be seen, I'm going to try and get a green layer on that. I've been really umming and ahhing as to whether I put green on the shoulder pads, and I think because the green cape's going to be quite a substantial bit, on one hand it will be cool to have green shoulder pads because you're going to have the bone coming out of it, so it'll be a nice contrast, but then you're going to have the green cape, so you lose the contrast. So either way, I haven't planned that one out very well. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've got all my green done now. So a base coat of Deathworld Forest on the cape, and that's pretty much the only green I'm doing on this miniature. I've blocked in using Lead Belcher, the silver of the axe, and then using Warp Block Bronze, I've done the little the clip-on bits on the shoulders, the cogs on the weapon. There we go. The little bits, these little chain things that are going to be swinging down on here, big block on top. Again, all the bronze just based in. Oh, we're out of focus. There we go. All the bronze just blocked in, and on the back as well. And then on this fella, I was umming and ahhing what to do, whether I do a bronze spike on his head and his knee, because obviously you're going to weather it differently. I'm going to use the Nihilic Oxide on the bronze, and I'm going to use the Rise of Rust and the Typhus Corrosion around the legs and joints and stuff like that. So I thought, nah, that'd be cool, keep it in. I'll do it that style. A little bit of silver on the pipes there. So, next step is I'm going to put a layer of Sycorax bronze on this dark bronze here, and then I'm going to start giving it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and that's going to be a selective wash, so it's going to go in the recesses, like round the legs, and again I'm going to try and drag it up just to sort of add a different colour to the, see if we can, yeah, get in, oh, a bit too much, just adds a different colour to the Seraphim Sapir from earlier. We'll see how that goes. Just try and dirty it up a little bit more, and that's going to go. It's going to be like I say, a recess wash on the cream, but then an all-over wash on the bronze and the green. As I think the Agrax Earthshade on the green will look really cool, and on the metal as well. It'll just really dirty it down. Okay, so I've washed it all with Agrax Earthshade. You can see how it makes the silver look really dirty. The bronze has got an even dirtier look to it now. Let's just refocus. There we go. Whilst it's been drying, I've just put black on the handle. I'm just going to highlight that with Eshin Grey. Oh, you should be able to tell. You can see like where the gauntlets joins the hand. I've kind of put a bit more Agrax in, just to deepen it and add a bit more different tone, I guess. On the other side, similar story. This over here definitely darkened the cloak. Not too concerned about the inside of the cloak. I just needed it to be green, and I'll build that up next time. But as you can see, everything's washed. The silver looks dirty. The bronze has depth. I've just added Agrax on like the first 50, first 5 mils even of the bone strut there. On the back, again, put a lot of Agrax on the side. Kind of started making that look a bit dirty and rank. Work on all those later. And on the big fella. Let's try and wobbly camera. I apologise. Phone in one hand, you see. Yeah. So hopefully it's looking a bit ranker. Not really sure what colour to do those wires on his left leg. But yeah, everything looks pretty ratty. Bit of black on his tubes on his face. And around the back, again, just made things look a bit rattier and put the black in the knee joint on the back. Washed the skull dangling between his legs. So next stage then. I'm going to give the silver bits a light dry brush, or just edge it with Ironbreaker, as I would like them. Oh, let's refocus again. There it is. Yeah, Ironbreaker on the silver. Maybe a little bit of Ironbreaker on the bronze as well, just on the edges. Really extreme edge highlight. Start building up the Elysium on the cloak, the Elysium green on the cloak. And then I might do the weathering, to be honest. I might do the verdigris on the bronze and some of the rust on the metal. Highlight the Eshin Grey, and then it's basically left for the nurglings on the only thing left to do at that point will be the nurglings on the base, the swollen, bloated belly, and the weird flames things. So that's what's coming up.
Hey guys, so yeah, quick bit of pictures, as when I was putting all this together, somehow I've missed a video. So luckily I did take a couple of pictures to show my mates at this stage just this morning. So you can see basically what I've missed out from the video is I've applied the nihilic oxide to the copper, applied the typhus corrosion to all the silver, and when that dried, I've dry brushed over the typhus corrosion with riser rust. They're the technical paints, and then just used a little bit more of Ironbreaker on the edges of the axe, so where it'd be cutting through stuff. I've then used Larmian Median to water down nihilic oxide and sort of washed the flamey bits, but left the very edges white because that makes sense, but it looks a bit weak, so I'm probably going to go back and add an extra bit of green onto it. Yeah, but that's how it looks so far. We should be back onto the videos now.
Okay, so quite a few steps I've now done. You can see on the grey smoky stuff, I've put basically I've used Larmium Medium a hell of a lot from here on out. So good tip, always wash your brush. I generally get a lot of wash on a shade brush, dump it on my palette, and then just wash my brush thoroughly, and then dip a bit of Larmium Medium and smudge them together. So I've used Beeltan Green because I prefer the shade of this one. So I've got Koala Green shade and Beeltan Green. I don't know if you'll be able to see the variance in colours. Beeltan just seems to be a bit more of a richer green. So I don't know if you'll be able to spot the colour on here, but you'll be able to see it at the once I've got the focus. There we go. I keep saying focus about 20 billion times in this video. But you can see the sort of shade, and I've done it just at the closest bits to the model. And again on this one, I think that just improves it now, gives it a bit of a better look. As it's like blowing away, it's getting fainter. But the big thing I've done is on this dude. So there's quite a lot of washes that I've used to build up to this, and I'm really kind of liking how this is looking right now. So to start off, I have, once again, refocus. I've alternated basically. I've used Koala Green Shade on the Nurglings at his feet, and I've used it on the first one, then skipped one, and then used it on that one, and skipped one. The ones that I skipped, I gave a Reichland Flesh Shade, and again, all of this is mixed with Larmium Medium. When that dried, I gave everything a Biel-Tan wash because I really liked the shade that gave. As soon as this is dried on those, I'm going to give them, I think, an Agrax Earthshade wash and see how that looks. But onto the belly then. I started off using Carroburg Crimson, which is a really nice red shade. And I applied that to the guts bit, the exposed guts and the dangling intestines and such. And kind of tried to work fast here. So that was again, everything. Every shade I've used here is from here on out is using Larmium Medium to sort of water it to varying consistencies. Keep your hands still. So yeah, Carroburg Crimson went on the exposed guts and the intestines and such, including on the back and including these weird tentacle looking things popping out there. I then worked really quick basically, and I kind of wanted to wet blend it as best as possible anyway. So I used Reichland Flesh Shade first on the skin, but this, like I said, heavily Larmium Medium because I didn't want it to be too thick. I then used a bit of Koala Green Shade around the edges, just because it's Nurgle and it looks a bit dank. Used a lot of Druchii Violet around the torn skin areas because that should look sore. So Druchii Violet was a really good one for that. And then kind of went back, used a bit more Reichland Flesh Shade to blend it again. Made sure to not get it on the... Made sure to not get it on the maggots, because they should be red. Then used a bit of, again, watered down with Larmium Medium, Blood for the Blood God, just on this little blood drip there. Didn't want it to look too overpowering bright red drop, so I think that looks okay. There we go again, sorry. Filming all this on a phone, so yeah. I then used, what did I use? A little bit of Screaming Skull, again, very much watered down with Larmium Medium, just as a little tiny, I'll see how focused I can zoom in and get here. Turns out not that much. Just as a little edge highlight on what is now the pink bits, so the tentacles and that. So like I say, next step now is I'm going to put another wash on the Nurglings because they just look a little bit washed out, not very well defined at the moment. And I kind of want the focal point of this model to be the using belly and everything, and the battered armour. I think there's a real good juxtaposition there. So yeah, I keep continually piecing it together to look at bits I might have missed. I have, well I think on, the bone has been highlighted. Again, just using a watered down Screaming Skull and then added a little bit of white onto the edges. And likewise for the bone on that bit. So yeah, there's not much left to do now. I think I'm just going to put the... I'll start very carefully putting the Martian Iron Earth on. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to blend in the Nurglings around the Martian Iron Earth. It might be something I do once it's set and just start putting a lot of washes on it to make it look like the corruption sort of seething into the ground. I feel like there's something I could do more on the head. Like, normally you have eyes, but somehow the head just doesn't seem like the focal point of this miniature. I was thinking of just using some bloodletter glaze. It's very hard to show, but there's like 3 little dots that I could put some glaze on. So yeah, we'll try that. Okay, so I've just been doing final little touch-ups, and obviously I've chucked some stuff on the base. I'm trying to hold it so the base is still a little bit wet. Oh well. Let's get it in there. There we go. So I've added some Ard coat on the intestines to give it a bit of a shine. I've given the Nurglings a few yellow dots for eyes. Just kind of picked out their tongues and a bit more intestines on one that I'd missed on the back. Bear in mind, from here on out, this is going to be covered by the cape. Let's get back in the light. So yeah, I'm feeling this is pretty much done now. I will say one thing though. Nice one. Just put my hand in the lovely fingerprint on that one though. I'll probably go back and rebase this at some point. And by rebase, I don't mean do anything spectacular with it. I mean, I'm an idiot and I got confused. I think it's easily done. And bought iron. Yep, phone cut out on me there. So yeah, I bought iron earth, and what I wanted was iron crust. It's a really good effect if you can use it, but you have to dollop so much of it on. You can see the little lines, but you can also see where I've put my bloody finger in it and got that lovely fingerprint. You really need to dollop it on, and that gives you the bigger cracks, and then dry brush over it and stuff. I've seen people use it really well. I haven't used it very well, so I'm just going to go out and buy some iron crust and redo that one. But yeah, overall, model considered complete. I'm just going to piece it together now and get a final shot of it. So there you have it. I would consider my finished model, and I'm really pleased with that. This has been a really fun model to paint. Really enjoyed trying out different techniques with the weathering. Inadvertently tried out way more techniques than I'd thought, and I've kind of developed, oh god, get in focus, developed a bit more about using washes to shade down, particularly on the belly. Yeah, really pleased with how this one comes out. Looks really cool. As much as I really want to paint the rest of the Nurgle stuff next, I think I'm going to treat myself to some Imperial Fists and maybe get some Inceptors done. I don't know how I'm going to div those up yet. We'll see. Hope you've liked this video. Please leave comments or like, whatever. It really is appreciated and lets me know that it's worth doing. Have a lovely night.